Good evening, you're watching Brass Tacks with me, Dhaka Jacob. There is a bloodbath out on the streets of Bangladesh and the target seems to be India and former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. It started with the killing of Islamist student leader Usman Hadi. He was declared dead last evening and thereafter there has been a spiral of violence in which Indian diplomatic missions, minority Hindus and former Awami League folks have been targeted. But one thing is clear. The interim administration of Muhammad Yunus is deliberately fanning these flames, these anti-India flames, this anti-India rhetoric, in the hope of destabilizing Bangladesh and thereby getting to postpone the elections which are slated for February and March. The big question is, if this is being deliberately done, then we need to ask that basic question which confronts India, it confronts the region. Is India being scapegoated to legitimize radicalism? Islamist radicalism, and more importantly, use that and fan the flames of an anti-India sentiment only to derail Bangladesh's scheduled elections. We'll probe that question in a moment, but I want to play out what the actual situation is on the ground in Dhaka, in Chittagong, in other major cities across Bangladesh over the last 24 hours.
Right now, I am in front of one of the burned news media office. This is one of the leading Bangladeshi newspaper. This is the most readed Bangladeshi newspaper in the entire world. I'm here in front of the office of this burned media newspaper. Last night there was a big protest happened inside the entire Dhaka. There was few other places also burned. One just 500 or 300 meters from there. Another news media. The Daily Star buildings also was burned last night, and there was a huge protest after the young leader Sharif Usman Hadi's death. He was shot 1 week before, and last night he was confirmed dead in Singapore. And after that, there was lots of chaos inside the city. So this is one of the places I will show you around. So as you can see, there is already police have sealed the places, and there is it's become a crime scene zone. You can see there is police car, and also inside the building, police are collecting the evidence. And this was one of the leading newspaper. Already they were not able to publish today's newspaper, and their online transmissions also not working properly, and it's been stopped actually, if I can say, and the police are heavily guarded here.
So right at the heart of these protests is the simple question, were they spontaneous or was there a coordinated attempt to try and make India look like the villain? Now, here's what happened in the lead up to the protests. On the 11th of December, an Islamist student leader, his name is Sharif Usman Hadi, is shot outside a mosque in Dhaka. No one knows who did this. The incident immediately triggers outrage. Soon after, political operatives falsely link the attack to India and particularly to former Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. There is no evidence to suggest that. Neither have the Bangladeshi officials found or caught someone who's responsible for the death of the student leader Hadi. Bangladesh then seeks India's cooperation in the investigation. India firmly denies all the allegations, says its soil will never be used for any kind of anti-Bangladesh activities. Then on the 14th of December, Bangladesh summons the Indian High Commissioner there, Pranay Verma, and that escalates diplomatic tensions. A day after that, a Bangladeshi political leader makes a controversial speech to detach the Seven Sisters, which is in reference to India's 7 northeastern states, in a remark that draws very sharp criticism here in India. The next day, on the 17th of December, there are protests that target the Indian High Commission in Dhaka. India responds by formally lodging a diplomatic protest, issuing a démarche and summoning the Bangladeshi High Commissioner here in Delhi. And then yesterday, Sharif Usman Hadi succumbs to his injuries in a hospital in Singapore. His death is declared in Dhaka, and overnight violence breaks out across the country, particularly outside Indian missions, targeting minority Hindus and also targeting former Awami League leaders. New Delhi, though, is keeping a close watch at these developments that are unfolding. Let's listen in to some reactions coming in.
they have to distract attention from the public in a way that would, give the ruling dispensation some advantages, since they have taken an anti-India line as part of their policy.
देखो इसमें इफेक्ट तो यही है, ये लोग शांत नहीं है। यूनिस जो है ये पूरा के पूरा सत्ता में रहने के लिए बहुत कुछ कोशिश कर रहे हैं।
There are certain forces who are not very friendly to India, who are trying to create a difficult situation in Bangladesh.
I want to get quick reactions on this. Dr. Mohsin Ali is a freedom fighter and president of the Bangladesh Human Rights Watch. We'll also be joined by Ms. Veena Sikri, former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh. Dr. Ali, let me start by asking you, everybody here in India is concerned, is absolutely worried about this spiral of violence that we're seeing in Dhaka, in Chittagong, in other places. There seems to be, at least that's the view here from New Delhi, there seems to be a deliberate fanning of the flames, a deliberate fanning of the anti-India sentiment. Is that an accurate view of how things are playing out? Because look at the places that are under attack. They are either, Indian installations, Indian diplomatic missions, the High Commission, Assistant High Commission in Chittagong, or you have, elements that are considered to be close to the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Is it a fair assessment to say that some of this seems to be deliberately targeted violence?
Yes, sir. Good morning from New York. Yeah, you're right. You rightly said the summary of this situation. In anti-Indian sentiment, creating anti-Indian sentiment in Bangladesh or former East Pakistan is not a new thing. Since India was divided into India and Pakistan in 1947. So Pakistan is always creating problems in East Pakistan, in the then East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh, starting from 1948. And then when Awami League was born, and then 1952, the language movement, and then Ayub Khan came in, and then Yahya Khan came in. So all this, always they use the weapon of anti-Indian sentiment. Since the Bangladesh is a Muslim majority country, now almost 90% of people are Muslims. So they think that India is a Hindu majority country. They think that this weapon is good for their politics. So that's why they always, for anything, any crisis they want to create, they use this weapon, anti-Indian sentiment they create. This is created like last 24 hours or 40 hours events in Bangladesh is orchestrated by Pakistani ISI. This government, the interim government of Bangladesh, led by Professor Dr. Yunus, is run by IS, in a Pakistani intelligence agency. They are running the whole show, they are running the whole government, and they are creating Bangladesh a field of anti-Indian. So they
No, but what are they trying to achieve by doing that? What is the end game here? Are they trying to postpone the elections? Are they trying to play to a certain politics that seems to be playing well with the, the student wing of the Jamaat-e-Islami, the new NCP party, other parties? They seem to have taken an anti-India line, so it plays well to their politics. And of course, there is the fact that India also needs to address about Sheikh Hasina and her continued, residency here in India.
India and Awami League are not responsible for the killing of Osman Hadi. Osman Hadi was killed by the Jamati people because Osman Hadi was running for the election on the Dhaka 8 election. And Awami League is not there. It's BNP and Jamati Islami leader, this student leader, Sadiq Qaim. He is the another Inqilab Mons. He was the representative of the Inqilab Mons. So he already declared his candidacy there. So there is a rival between this Sadiq Qaim of Jamaat Islami and this Hadi. So they fought each other and it's killed by their agent. And those two persons who are responsible for this, I think they smuggle them to inside India. It's how they can come to India without the government support. So government smuggled them to the inside India, and now they're blaming India. India is giving them shelter.
But what is the? I mean, what is the investigative proof or the evidence that the investigators have gathered so far after this shooting happened. I believe the shooting happened on the 12th, so today is the 19th. It's been a week now. On what basis are they saying that India was responsible for the shooting of this man, this Islamist leader, Usman Hadi?
Yeah, they have to create a situation just to blame India and also by the side of India, the Army League and Sheikh Hasina, so that they think that they can create the movement against Army League, against India, and they can convince the people in Bangladesh that India and Army League are not good for Bangladesh people. So this is the create an ultimate goal. The immediate goal is to postpone the election.
Okay.
And ultimate goal is to make Bangladesh again into a part of Pakistan, East Pakistan, or maybe a confederation with Pakistan, so that Pakistan have two wings to fight against India in the future. So that's their ultimate goal. This.
Okay, Dr. Ali, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. From the Human Rights Watch in Bangladesh, he's giving us his perspective on what's been going on. Make no mistake, there is a deliberate orchestration of this violence. The targets that are being chosen to be attacked by these, mobs, these Islamized mobs, is very clearly, targets of Indian state, like diplomatic missions, etc. Then there are minority Hindus who are being targeted, and of course there are former members of the Awami League who are being targeted. I want to get an Indian perspective also on this issue, and I want to go across to Madam Veena Sikri. She is former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh. So, Madam, we've seen this since the last year and a half now, since the momentous events of July last and August 5th when Sheikh Hasina was ousted from power. There was a deliberate fanning of this flames against India, anti-India rhetoric. Now we're seeing another version of that today, or at least in the last 3 or 4 days after the killing of this Usman Hadi, who, by the way, was no saint. But how does India deal with this? On the one hand, India has to push back and ask the interim regime of Mr. Yunus, please clamp down on this. This is unnecessarily, you're fanning the flames. And more importantly, you can't just be attacking our missions. That's against the Vienna Convention. But at the same time, how does India stop being this lightning rod, which seemingly is playing to Yunus and the Jamaat-e-Islami and the Students' Party and everybody else? It suits their politics, seemingly.
Yes, it has always suited the politics of the non-liberation war supporters. This is a very important aspect to look at, that post the liberation war of 1971, there has been some kind of democracy in Bangladesh at all times, elections one after the other, caretaker government. Even the 2 periods of military rule were overcome by the Awami League and BNP coming together and bringing down voluntarily the President Ashad at the time. Now, this interest in democracy and stability is a big factor in Bangladesh. The supporters of this group of wanting democracy and stability goes far beyond the Awami League. It's not just a political party issue. There are many people who may not support Sheikh Hasina, but they still want a democratic polity in Bangladesh. And this was proved very recently when the Pratham Alo published a national opinion survey in Dhaka in their newspaper and said that 70% of those polled wanted the Awami League to participate in the election. It's not that they are going to vote for the Awami League, no, but they wanted the Awami League to participate in the elections so that it's a free, fair and stable election, and then you can go on with your lives, whatever the outcome is. Now, this is what these groups are opposing. They are whipping up this anti-India propaganda because India has taken a very strong position saying that we want free, fair, inclusive and participatory elections. And I think India has to work hard to ensure that, get the global support for this, because without that, Bangladesh will descend into complete chaos. There is already this whole, Jamaat-e-Islami supporters who want a caliphate, and this is not accepted to the people. Jamaat-e-Islami thought that they will automatically get the support of the people once Awami League is out of the picture, but that has not happened. And they are venting their fury on India, which is quite wrong. And we have taken it up so strongly, blaming India. Hardly the attack had taken place and our High Commissioner was called in to blame India, which is absolutely unacceptable. And now even our positions there are being attacked, and the police and army have to come out to defend the Indian position. So I think that India has showed a lot of strategic restraint so far. We have said we are prepared to deal with this government, but substantive work will take place only after the elections. But we want the elections to be free, fair and inclusive. We
Okay.
want that the election to lead to stability in Bangladesh, and this is what we have to work for with all the regional, national, and global support that we can get.
Okay, Meera Sikri, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, ma'am. The former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh with her thoughts and perspective on what is going on, what's the end objective, both for Yunus, the other parties. Clearly, they realize that the Awami League still has a lot of residual support, and even if the Awami League is banned, as is the case by the Yunus interim administration, the fact remains that a large majority of Bangladeshis want elections to happen. Those elections are scheduled for February and March, but Yunus, the Jamaat-e-Islami, maybe even the BNP, we don't know, but certainly the Jamaat-e-Islami and the newly formed NCP party want to push back those elections because they feel the electoral battleground is not in their favor. Now, you heard the analysis, but why has Bangladesh reached this particular point? There is a build-up to the chaotic scenes that we witnessed yesterday. It did not happen in isolation. It was deliberately fanned, flamed, and orchestrated by the Yunus regime. If not tacit support, certainly they have allowed, or at least allowed the situation to fester. What is the complete story and how have we got to such a point? I dig a little more deeper into what brought about these calamitous events over the last 24 hours. Recent developments in Bangladesh have sent alarm bells ringing in New Delhi. The death of Islamist student leader Sharif Usman Hadi, shot last week in Dhaka and later treated in Singapore, has plunged Bangladesh into fresh turmoil. There were violent street protests, attacks on media houses, arson, and a sharp spike in anti-India rhetoric. Indian diplomatic missions have come under threat. Indian journalists and foreign policy planners are watching this very closely with great unease. Is India being deliberately scapegoated to justify rising Islamist radicalism and destabilize Bangladesh ahead of elections? Let's dig right in. Sharif Usman Hadi, 32 years old, was a radical Islamist student leader and a vocal critic of both India and former Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. On the 12th of December, masked gunmen shot Hadi as he was leaving a mosque in Dhaka. He was hit in the ear, critically injured, and later flown to Singapore for treatment. On the 18th of December, Hadi succumbed to his injuries. His death became the trigger not just for protests, but for a politically charged narrative that rapidly descended into violence. Even before the facts were established, political operatives began circulating allegations linking Hadi's attack to India and to Sheikh Hasina. This despite one inconvenient truth, and that is that Hadi was a staunch critic of both India and Hasina. Bangladesh officially sought India's cooperation in the probe into Hadi's death. India responded firmly, rejecting the insinuations and stating very clearly that India will never allow its soil to be used against Bangladesh. But the damage had already been done. Let's break down how these events spiraled out of control. On the 14th of December, Indian High Commissioner to Dhaka, Pranay Verma, was summoned by the Foreign Office there. The very next day, on the 15th of December, a leader in Bangladesh's Nationalist Congress Party, a new party, makes a provocative call to detach India's 7 sisters, or the 7 northeastern states. The next day, on the 17th of December, Islamist groups call for a march to the Indian High Commission in Dhaka. India summons Bangladesh's High Commissioner in Delhi, formally protesting and flagging concerns over the safety of Indian diplomats. Protests then erupt outside the Indian High Commission in Dhaka. Anti-India slogans are raised there. The next day, on the 18th of December, the protest spread. It goes to many other cities in Bangladesh. The Rajshahi Visa Center had to be shut down because of the widening protests. The Assistant Indian High Commission in Chittagong is also attacked. Later that night, which is the night of the 18th of December, Hadi's death is officially announced. And that is when the situation explodes. Interim government chief Muhammad Yunus addresses the nation, but he does little to assuage the situation. The intervening night of December 18th and 19th saw widespread unrest. Violent protests were seen outside the Indian Assistant High Commission in Chittagong. There was stone pelting, barricades were broken, threats were issued openly on the streets. Videos show militant participation of various student bodies affiliated with the Jamaat-e-Islami and the new party, the NCP. Across Bangladesh, there was arson and rioting. Highways were blocked and the homes of former ministers and Awami League supporters were brutally attacked. The army had to be deployed in multiple locations, including inside the Dhaka University premises. Perhaps most chillingly, media offices were also targeted, including the largest Bengali newspaper, Prothom Alo, and the largest English daily, the Daily Star. At least 30 journalists had to be rescued in Dhaka as mobs started attacking newsrooms. This was no longer spontaneous outrage. This was organized intimidation.
উপস্থিত আছেন এবং তারা একটি বিক্ষোভ মিছিল নিয়ে তুমি কি আমি কি হাদি হাদি স্লোগান দিয়ে তারা শাহবাগ এলাকায় প্রবেশ করছে আপনারা দেখতে।
ওসমান হাদি ছিলেন পরাজিত শক্তি, ফ্যাসিস্ট সন্ত্রাসীদের শত্রু। তার কণ্ঠ স্তব্ধ করে বিপ্লবীদের ভয় দেখানোর অপচেষ্টা সম্পূর্ণভাবে ব্যর্থ করে দেন। ভয়, সন্ত্রাস কিংবা রক্তপাতের মাধ্যমে এদেশের গণতান্ত্রিক অগ্রযাত্রা কেউ থামাতে পারবে না।
This government can tolerate any kind of criticism of government. So, who criticizes the government if in little way? The journalist attacked by the government as well as July protesters, basically NCP and Kalapate Muslish or Sound Like Party. Now, army, a lot of army now deployed in front of Pathamala and Daily Star. You know that my office also just opposite of Daily Star. So, a lot of army we see now.
CNN News 18 has accessed fresh intelligence assessments pointing to a much larger design. And here are some key warnings. This entire breakdown is managed instability, which is being engineered ahead of the elections. The elections are due for February and March next year. The goal of this entire breakdown of law and order is to project that the upcoming elections in Bangladesh are unsafe, thereby allow radical street power to consolidate in favor of Muhammad Yunus. Yunus knows that post the elections, he becomes an irrelevant figure in Bangladesh. Hadi's killing is being used as a catalyst, not merely being mourned. Anti-India sentiment is being deliberately amplified. Indian diplomatic assets and missions are being specifically targeted, which is a clear violation of the Vienna Convention. The message is simple but dangerous. Blame everything on India. Legitimize radicalism and derail the political process. For New Delhi, the concern is threefold. Number one and topmost priority is the safety of Indian diplomats and Indian missions across Bangladesh. Number two, the Islamist mobilization using India as some kind of a lightning rod. And number three, regional instability that is spilling across the borders. Remember, large parts of the India-Bangladesh border are still porous. India has already issued a formal démarche. It summoned the Bangladesh High Commissioner. India has been demanding that Bangladesh ensures the safety of all Indian diplomatic premises and personnel and act against rising anti-India Islamist rhetoric. So the question that India must confront is India being scapegoated to legitimize radicalism and derail Bangladesh's elections? Is the death of Usman Hadi being weaponized not for justice, but for seeding organized chaos?